I'm waiting for the little clock to tell me that we're live. Yes, here we are. What we see here is the adjustment card. Okay, it's the Lamed or Lamed card, and it's the Libra card that balances. Okay, and here is this is of course from the Thoth Tarot image, Lady Harris's rendering of Crowley's idea for the Justice card or the adjustment card. She's a harlequin here. Crowley calls her that anyway, sort of dressed as a harlequin, but she's got the double crown there, if you'll notice, of the Egyptian goddess Maat, and Greek renderings of or versions of Ma'at are Thames or Thames. It's pronounced either two ways, which is sort of a specific, almost a civic version of equality and justice. I'm bringing it up today because today is Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday in the United States, or in most, it's a federal holiday, but in most states observe it more than others, much to the shame of, in my opinion, of those that don't. And Constance and I this morning, we just happened upon an hour program on television that we watched while sipping our morning tea, of two speeches by Martin Luther King. One of them he delivered in New York City exactly 1 year to the day before he was assassinated. And it was on the Vietnam War. And to me, that was his most important and it's my favorite speech of his. And it was about justice and equality and but on an almost metaphysical level. And Constance and I afterwards were discussing what it seems to us to have been his particular view of what the will of God was. And as a Thelemite, of course, we look upon on will as the individual will, and once you've actually got a good handle on what your will is, then it is more or less, almost by definition, the exact same thing that others ideally always thought for a couple thousand years was the will of God. Thelemite's point of view is not oh, thy will be done, and I'll try to conform to your will. And when you hear preachers talk and things like that, including King, he's always talking, I just want to do your will. Okay. Well, you know, in order to actually accomplish that, you have to be secure in what your will is. Almost like if you want to do the will of God, you better make sure it's your will to do the will of God. And to find out what that is, you're going to have to first discover what your will is. So it's exactly the same thing if you get it right. And So we started talking about justice and things like that. So I'm going to read two things to you today. One of them is Crowley's Libri, the Book of Balance, which is sort of a retelling or a Crowleyized version of a Golden Dawn sure, concerning balance. And I'm going to also share with you my words, my closing words in the last OTO convention that I spoke at back in August, I guess, of last year. So, which talks about the eons and the aeon of Horus that we're in now, and the following aeon that Crowley makes a few references to in the Book of the Law, commentaries on the Book of the Law. But first, let me share with you Libri, the Book of the Balance, subfigura 30. Now, why 30? Because 30 is the number represented by the Hebrew letter Lamed, and Lamed is the justice card. So, it's an official class B document. Okay. Learn first, O thou who aspirest into our ancient order, that equilibrium is the basis of the work. If thou thyself hast not a sure foundation, whereon wilt thou stand to direct the forces of nature? Know then that as man is born into this world amidst the darkness of matter and the strife of contending forces, so must his first endeavor be to seek the light through their reconciliation. Thou then who hast trials and troubles, rejoice because of them. For in them is strength, and by their means is a pathway open unto that light. How should it be otherwise, O man, whose life is but a day in eternity, a drop in the ocean of time? How were thy trials not many, couldst thou purge thy soul from the dross of earth? Is it but now that the higher life is beset with dangers and difficulties? Hath it not ever been so with the sages and hierophants of the past? They have been persecuted and reviled. They have been tormented of men. Yet through this also has their glory increased. Rejoice therefore, O initiate, for the greater thy trial, the greater thy triumph. When men shall revile thee and speak against thee falsely, hath not the Master said, Blessed art thou? Yet, O aspirant, let thy victories bring thee not vanity, for with increased knowledge should come increased wisdom. He who knoweth little thinketh he knoweth much, but he who knoweth much hath learned his own ignorance. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of a fool than of him. Be not hasty to condemn others. How knowest thou that in their place thou couldst have resisted the temptation? And even were it so, why shouldst thou despise one who is weaker than thyself? Thou therefore who desirest magical gifts, be sure that thy soul is firm and steadfast. For it is by flattering thy weakness, that the weak ones will gain power over thee. Humble thyself before thyself, yet fear neither man nor spirit. Fear is failure and the forerunner of failure, and courage is the beginning of virtue. Therefore fear not the spirits, but be firm and courteous with them. For thou hast no right but to despise or revile them, and this too may lead thee astray. Command, banish them, curse them by the great names if need be, but neither mock nor revile them, for so assuredly wilt thou be led into error. Man is what he maketh himself, within the limits fixed by his inherited destiny. He is part of mankind. His actions affect not only what he calleth himself, but also the whole universe. Worship and neglect not the physical body, which is thy temporary connection with the outer and the material world. Therefore, let thy mental equilibrium be above disturbance by material events. Strengthen and control the animal passions. Discipline the emotions and the reason. Nourish the higher aspirations. Do good unto others for its own sake, not for reward, not for gratitude, not for sympathy. If thou art generous, thou wilt not long for thine ears to be tickled by expressions of gratitude. Remember that unbalanced force is evil. That unbalanced severity is but cruelty and oppression. But that also unbalanced mercy is but weakness which would abate and allow evil. Act passionately, think rationally. Be thyself. True ritual is as much action as word. It is will. Remember that this earth is but an atom in the universe, and thou thyself but an atom thereon. And that even couldst thou become the god of this earth whereon thou crawlest and grovellest, that thou wouldst even then be an atom, and one amongst many. Nevertheless, have the greatest self-respect. And to that end, sin not against thyself. The sin which is unpardonable is knowingly and willfully to reject truth. To fear knowledge, lest that knowledge pander not to thy prejudices. To obtain magical power, learn to control thought. Admit only those ideas that are in harmony with the end desired, and not every stray and contradictory idea that presents itself. Fixed thought is the means to an end. Therefore, pay attention to the power of silent thought and meditation. The material act is but the outward expression of thy thought. And therefore hath it been said that, quote, the thought of foolishness is sin, unquote. Thought is the commencement of action, and if a chance thought can produce much effect, what cannot a fixed thought do? Therefore, as hath already been said, establish thyself firmly in the equilibrium of forces, in the center of the cross of the elements. That cross from whose center the creative word issued at the birth of the dawning universe. Be thou therefore prompt and active as the sylphs, but avoid frivolity and caprice. Be energetic and strong like the salamanders, but avoid irritability and ferocity. Be flexible and attentive to images like the undines. But avoid idleness and changeability. Be laborious and patient like the gnomes, but avoid grossness and avarice. So shalt thou gradually develop the powers of thy soul, and fit thyself to command the spirits of the elements. For wert thou to summon the gnomes to pander to thine avarice, thou wouldst no longer command them, but they command thee. Wouldst thou abuse the pure beings of the woods and mountains to fill thy coffers and satisfy thy hunger for gold? Wouldst thou debase the spirits of living fire to serve thy wrath and hatred? Wouldst thou violate the purity of souls of the waters to pander to thy lust of debauchery? Wouldst thou force the spirits of the evening breeze to minister to thy folly and caprice? Know that with such desires thou canst but attract the weak, not the strong, and in that case the weak will have power over thee. In true religion there is no sect. Therefore take heed that thou blaspheme not the name by which another knoweth his God. For if thou do this thing in Jupiter, thou wilt blaspheme Yod-He Vav-He, and in Osiris Yod-He Shin Vav-He. Ask and ye shall have. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Okay. We're living in a time when that advice is never more well heeded, okay? When it gets down to the Thelemic point of view, or a Thelemic point of view on the magical formula of the modern age that we're in, and that Crowley suggested started at the turn of the 20th century. The aeon of Horus, to follow the aeon of Osiris, which is pretty much characterized by the Christian formula of sacrifice and the idea that the sun is born and dies every day. The aeon of Horus is more or less acceptance of the fact that the sun stays on all the time, and so do individual consciousness monads, or at least the essence of consciousness monads. And there's great division because it seems like the age of Horus, especially in the 3rd chapter of the Book of the Law, would seem to be sort of the brutal. We see it manifested at the horrible bloodletting and brutality that we see all around us. Okay, and the 3rd chapter God is giving voice to that. Okay, and there's no denying that's what's happening out there. And but Horus, excuse me, Horus is let's see what happened. Are we still here? Horus is a complex god. As a matter of fact, he's several gods. He is Horus, the Wild Avenger, and then his brother Hurparkrat, the god of silence. There's an active and a passive role. So we see it sort of manifest in the Book of the Law, because we've got this uh, wonderful, beautiful, inspiring sections, and we got this wild and crazy thing. And it's become clear to me that both are absolutely necessary. The wild and crazy part is, in a sense, is ultimately necessary to clean house, if you will, of the decaying zombie-like remnants of the previous aeon. But it's just to set the stage for the aeon to follow, and then that would be the job of that other aspect of it. So it'd be like the followers or the disciples of the formula are the shock troops, but the adepts of the formula, okay, those that have actually now started to manifest the formula in their lives, the true essence of it, then become the adepts of the formula, and they have a specific job. And Crowley tells us what that job is. These are the closing words. It's just only a minute or two, so don't think it's going to take too long, of my Noticon speech. The disciples of an aeon struggle to cast out the corrupted vestiges of the previous aeon and manifest within themselves the magical dynamics and formula of the new aeon. But once having done so, the adepts of the aeon are well armed to prepare the way for the dawning of the age to follow. Frumacus. Okay, Crowley actually, let's see, in the third chapter. Oh, I had a third chapter around here someplace. But anyway, and shall stand till the fall of the great equinox, when Frumacus, okay, takes over. So the Book of the Law in chapter 3 actually states that the next aeon is Frumacus. And who is Frumacus? Crowley tells us, quote, Frumacus is the dawning sun. He therefore symbolizes any new course of event. The double-wanded one, that's Frumacus is the double-wanded one, is thamaist. Thmaist, okay? And thamaist is the dual form of thamas and thamate. Okay, those are both, whom the Greeks derived their Themis, the goddess of justice. And there's our justice card. She's got a name. And she's the fool's girlfriend, whom the Greeks derived their Themis, goddess of justice. Thamaist is the hegemon in the Golden Dawn ritual, which is like the good cop, that your guide, you're standing for your holy guardian angel. The hegemon, who bears a mitre-headed scepter like that of Joshua in the Royal Arts degree of Freemasonry. He is the third officer in rank in the neophyte ritual of the Golden Dawn, following Horus, as Horus follows Osiris. You get it? Okay. So Horus follows Osiris. Thamaist follows Horus. He can then assume the throne in place of the ruler of the temple when the equinox of Horus comes to an end. Now, Crowley continues, quote, following him, Horus, will arise the equinox of Ma, M-A, the goddess of justice. It may be 100, and it's already been 100, or 10,000 years from now, for the computation of time is not here as there. Strength will prepare the reign of justice. We should begin already, I deem, to regard this justice as the ideal, whose way we should make ready by virtue of our force and fire, unquote. I'm going to repeat that. We should begin already, as I deem, to regard this justice as the ideal whose way we should make ready by virtue of our force and fire, unquote. By we, I believe Crowley means the adepts of the aeon of Horus, whose duty it is to regard justice as the ideal and to make ready by our force and fire. As a Thelemite, I must now ask myself, am I at the stage of my spiritual awakening where it's still necessary for me to use my force and fire disciple of Horus to break free from the binding chains of the old Osirian formula? Or is now Horus firmly enthroned in me? And am I now ready to accept the adept of Horus's duty and regard justice as the ideal and to make ready by my force and fire the coming age? Now, Thelemites come in all shapes and sizes, each of us with our own unique karmic assets and liabilities. Each of us with our own lessons to learn and lessons to teach. Each of us functioning in accordance with our own private level of understanding. No two Thelemites think alike, nor should we be expected to. No two Thelemites think alike, or should we be expected to. Both the disciple of the aeon of Horus and the adept of the aeon of Horus are Thelemites, each possessing their own self-seized, is probably self-sized too, each possessing our own self-seized rights and privileges. If we disagree on things concerning the world around us, that's to be expected. During my last talk at Noticon, I mentioned that I considered a disturbing trend among some racist extremists to identify their movement with Thelema. Some of my Thelemic siblings teased me and called me SJW DuQuette. Now, I'm such an old fart that at first I didn't know what SJW meant, so I had to look it up. Social Justice Warrior. Fuck yeah. I'm a social justice warrior. Love is the law, love under will. And that's my little Martin Luther King Jr. holiday message for today. I'll get off my soapbox tomorrow. Well, maybe not. Who knows? Okay. Until then, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.